Welcome to Ring the Damn Bell. I have a very special guest, a man that is a legend within himself who has wrestled in the indie scenes, former talent for WWE, who was involved in a short little gimmick with Lex Luger, which we will get into that. But before I introduce my guest, I need to put this disclaimer out there so that we don't get flagged. There will be smoking on the podcast. So if this offends you or you're sensitive to seeing people smoke, this might not be the podcast for you. Now, let's get into the fun stuff. With me is a man that was called the Thrillseeker, Terry Zeller. What's going on, my friend?
What's happening, my friend? What's going on, buddy?
Oh, man, just enjoying some beautiful Minnesota weather. I know you guys were just getting dumped on with rain. Has it finally stopped?
It stopped today, tomorrow, maybe Sunday. It's going to pick back up again next week. I think I live in Seattle again.
That's funny you say that. I just told a buddy of mine that I wish Seattle would take their damn weather back because, we were getting a lot of rain as well. Good news is my baby, Big Red, she's at the trunk doctor getting fixed now. So hopefully I'll have her back the next week after all that damage. Man, from being that hail that hit us in St. Louis, almost $8,000 worth of damage.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, that was crazy. But people don't want to hear about the weather or about my truck. They want to hear about professional wrestling. Tell me, when exactly did you get into professional wrestling? As far as being a fan, and what promotion did you grow up watching?
I was a kid, believe it or not. I grew up in St. Paul, Minnesota, so it was AWA all the way. Completely.
So, did you have someone that was your favorite wrestler?
Oh, Greg Gagne, Jim Bronzell, they were my guys. The Crusher, Baron von Raschke, Crusher Blackwell, Nick Bockwinkel, just all those guys from Buck Zumoff. That's what I watched as a kid. I'd seen some different stuff. We'd go up to my grandma's house up in Duluth, and she was a wrestling fan too, so I'd get to sit down and watch wrestling with her. And then we got some obscure stuff. I don't know exactly where it was coming from and stuff, but like Manoli Savini, just old school stuff. I used to watch that. I love that.
Was there a wrestler that you can remember that made you feel your first real emotion? For example, what I'm talking about is, and I've told the story so many times, so I'm not going to really go into the story, but there's an angle between JYD, Ted DiBiase, who turned on JYD. That was the first time as a child that I felt that hatred and that anger at Ted DiBiase. Yeah, watching it, I would cheer and boo. But that was the first time I truly felt emotion. Do you have something that similarly happened with you and a certain professional wrestler?
I don't know. Greg Gagne used to get beat up a lot. If it wasn't Bockwinkel beating him up, it was Blackjack Lanza, one of the henchmen from one of the Heenan family, was out there beating him up and doing that and drawing blood. And I absolutely could not stand anybody in the Heenan family as a kid. As an adult, I understand. As a kid, I hated anybody. Greg Gagne was my guy. Jumping Jim Bronzell, that was the deal for me, man. They were my superstars. They were my heroes at the end of the day. I love those guys.
At what point did you decide you wanted to become a professional wrestler? Were you still a kid? Were you an adult? Walk me through what that looked like.
Dude, I was a kid when I decided I was going to be a professional wrestler. I told everybody I'm going to be a pro wrestler. Of course, I got no way. That ain't going to happen. But yeah, guess what? I was a pro wrestler.
So what wrestling school did you go to?
Did not go to a wrestling school. It wasn't such
wow.
It wasn't such a thing as a wrestling school when I got in. I was trained by Playboy Buddy Rose.
Wow. That's funny if you bring up that name, that you brought that name as well. I was just asked, my Mount Rushmore, who would that be? And Buddy Rose was one of the individuals that I mentioned. I love Buddy Rose. Um, so you get trained by Buddy Rose. Do you remember your first match? And was this a match that you're proud of? Was this a match that you're like, oh my gosh, looking back on it today, that was just terrible?
No, actually, it was a good match. The whole time, I didn't even know I was training for a match. We were taught wrestling then was a whole lot different than it is now. Let's say it was a whole lot different than the way that we train people now. Went through a bunch of stuff, proved that I could take it, proved that I could keep my mouth shut, did what I was told, showed up for practice, even injured, showed up for practice. Practiced a lot with Buddy. He used me to demonstrate stuff because I taught it quicker and easier than anybody else did. So he used me, and the whole time, unannounced to me, I was, training to be a pro wrestler. I was told to bring my gear. Every time, every place we were at, bring your gear. You're going to get in the ring. You're going to do something. Always bring your gear. Always bring your gear. So first wrestling match happened in Troutdale High School in Troutdale, Oregon. I get to there, set up the ring, and Buddy comes up to me and said, "You got your gear?" And I was like, "Yes, sir." He said, "Go change. You're in the match with me." We did the opener. 30 minutes.
Wow. I mean, that's something that that had to be somewhat of a dream for you, especially to be in a ring with Buddy Rose. I mean, that guy is an absolute legend within the industry. Now, how long were you on the independent scene before you were able to have your match with WWF, WWE now?
6 years before I actually got on with them. Thanks to Billy Anderson. He had his own wrestling school that he was running. I had moved to Arizona at the time. I was running Arizona independent wrestling circuit all up and down Tucson and all the Indian reservations that were out there, going into Mexico, doing stuff like that. Billy Anderson invited me along he'd seen something in me, invited me to go do some tapings for WWF. Went with him. The only time I ever paid a booker fee, and never did one. Paid him once, never paid him again after that. Did it all on my own after that.
Wow. So
1990. So from 90 to 93, I worked for WWF.
So let's go back a little bit before we talk about WWF. Why professional wrestling? I mean, I got to know you. We spent a good amount of time together with our wives in St. Louis. You're no dummy. You're a fairly intelligent person. And I'm not saying you have to be a dummy in professional wrestling. My point is you obviously had options. So I get it. You wanted to be a professional wrestler as a kid, but there's kids who want to be astronauts. Why did I go into something else? What was it about professional wrestling that you just had to chase this dream?
I don't know. I think I chased it more than anybody else probably was, because I told I was never going to amount to anything. I was never going to be anybody.
Oh, wow.
That was my way of proving that I was going to be somebody, and I was somebody. I said I was going to do it, and I went out there and I did it.
So what did your family think about you actually chasing it and getting involved in professional wrestling?
Believe it or not, I wasn't involved with my family a whole lot. We were sort of at that point in time, sort of dysfunctional a whole lot. I had moved from Minnesota to Portland. In Portland, I got a bigger chance to get into wrestling. Spent a lot of time at the Portland Sports Arena, which drove my interest even more. I worked at a health club after school every day. I got myself a job in one of the health clubs that was there. It's called the Oregon Gym. I worked there for many, many years. Actually, the boys started coming in, and getting with them just drove it more and more and more and more, and met the right people, because that's how you got in at that time. And I worked at the Portland Sports Arena, did security for them. I did timekeeping for them at the Portland Sports Arena, and went and trained at the Portland Sports Arena on one occasion and got kicked out by good old Sandy Barr himself. I was there with a bunch of guys, and we're not going to name the guys at the time, but they were very popular at the time, and they worked out at the gym and knew that I wanted to do this, and come on down. They knew that I showed them something, I could do something, and got in there and weren't in there 30 minutes, and Sandy Barr came in and booted me out because he had his own kid that he was going to put into the business art bar. at the same time. So I wasn't allowed to be around it. And I kept doing the other stuff, though. They allowed me to keep being a timekeeper, and you're sitting that close to the ring as a timekeeper because back in the day, you were right at the corner of the ring. I got to see a lot of stuff and heard a lot of stuff and never said anything about it. And one day, Bobby Jaggers came to me because Bobby Jaggers was working there. He's a Kansas boy from out here. Came up to me and said, "Hey, after the match, stick around. Chris Colt wants to talk to you." And I'm like, "Yes, sir." So I stuck around after, and Chris Colt comes up to me and goes, "So you want to be a professional wrestler?" And I'm like, "Yes, sir." And he goes, "Here's an address you need to be at tomorrow at 11 a.m. Like, "Yes, sir." I showed up, and Mad Max Scott Ferris and Playboy Buddy Rose were there.
Wow.
That was my introduction. We ran the gamut and went through everything that we used to do back in that day. There was a lot of things that they did to discourage you from being a pro wrestler. Let's just put it that way, to keep it mild and keep it clean. A lot of stuff that you had to go through, but I endured it all.
Yeah. So take me back to that first day when you walked in, you met Playboy Buddy Rhodes. Did they have you doing cardio before you got into the ring? Did you get in the ring immediately? What was that first day like?
We got in the ring. We did some rolls, basic rolls. They showed us some rolls, some back bumps, stuff like that, just to see who could do it. And then sort of wrestled around a little bit to see what your aptitude was. I mean, Scott Ferris, probably a 300-pounder, and he wasn't a fat 300-pounder. I mean, this guy actually legitimately wrestled a grizzly bear before. Big boy.
Wow.
There was nothing you were going to do to him, if you know what I'm saying. And
right.
Tested you out, see what you were made of. And I mean, there was no holding back on their end. Let's put it that way. Every chop, every hit was solid, and everything connected very, very well. That's the way we were trained, old school, hard.
So I imagine your body had to hurt, had to be sore, had to be bruised up. How long was it that you were in the ring before you started getting those calluses built up on you that bumps didn't hurt as much as they did when you first started?
You know, I was lucky. They didn't hurt me a whole lot because I was pretty athletic anyhow. Lifted weights all the time and stuff. That first bump took the wind out of you, but you figure it out in a hurry. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But training was every single day. It wasn't train once a week, go home and rest. It was training every single day. So your body just naturally built up that resilience and that resistance to what was actually going on out there, especially when they're hitting you for real.
Yeah. Yeah. So I read that you were given the name Thrillseeker. Who gave you that?
I picked that name, Thrillseeker.
Oh, you picked it. Okay. Okay. Tell me about that. What did that mean to you?
Thrillseeker was a bull in the 60s in the rodeo circuit that nobody could ever ride. And my mantra was living on the edge and flirting with disaster. That was my mantra. I was that guy. I was going all out. It didn't matter to me. I would take the risk. I would do everything that I had to do to win a match. So I just started calling myself Thrillseeker.
So we go 6-7 years forward, and you get to WWE for television tapings. Who was your first match against in WWE?
Bad News Brown.
Oh, awesome. Love Bad News Brown.
First match, Bad News Brown, right out the gate. Got ghetto blasted. Very first match out the gate, Bad News Brown.
So I know that, especially back then, a lot of guys that first got, their first big match, that the guy that they were going against, they usually, gave you a fair warning that, if you F this up, I'm going to give you a beating for real. Bad News Brown say anything to you like that?
Nope. I never had an issue. There's a line of respect back there. There were certain things that you did back then that I won't go into detail here because I'm still old school. I'm still kayfabe about it. In person, I would talk to you about it, but I'm not putting it out there. There were certain things that you did that separated you as a worker as opposed to a jabroni, whatever else you want to call it, a backyard wrestler. I definitely wasn't one of those. I was one of those guys that broke backyard wrestlers, to be honest. I didn't like them. I thought they disrespected the industry that we were in. I learned how to shoot in this industry. That's how I grew up. They don't even teach that anymore, you know?
Right.
So I could handle myself pretty well. They knew it. I never, ever, there wasn't one person that I ever had a problem with or an issue with. Everybody was gentle and kind with me, and it was great. The only person I was ever afraid to get in the ring with was Lex.
And which we'll get to that because that happened. Did you have any sort of relationship with Vince McMahon? Have you ever had to deal with Vince McMahon?
Vince, when we were there, he was great. He said hi to everybody. He was just that kind of guy. He sort of knew everybody was putting the money in his pockets as far as I was concerned. He said hi to everybody. There was never any disrespect. There was never any putting his nose up at anybody that I had ever seen. Of course, I was on the West Coast. What happens in other locker rooms, I don't know, but I'd never had an issue with him. But then again, I was that guy that kept to myself. I didn't go up. I mean, I walked in every locker room. I shook everybody's hand, told everybody my name, and kept my mouth shut. That's number one thing I was always taught, and that's what I try to teach all the guys I train. Go to that locker room, shake everybody's hand, keep your mouth shut, and listen. You'll learn a lot by just sitting back and listening.
Speaking of the locker room, when you were at WWE, when you first got there, was there a so-called locker room leader? And if so, did someone tell you about, who the leader was, or was it just known because of that presence?
It was known, the presence, who was in charge at the time. And like I said, you just go in and you just keep your mouth shut. Nobody has to tell you. If you're a professional, you know what you're doing anyhow. You're not there to make a scene. When you're working for the WWF, you're there to do one job and one job only, and that's your job. Go in there, do what you're told to do. Don't get in anybody's way. I mean, those big guys got their own matches that they're working on and doing. You go into the locker room, you get changed out, you go and see whoever the scout is or the agent for that night is. They'll tell you who you're working with, or you go look at the whiteboard and see who you're working with. You go find the person you're working with, go introduce yourself, tell them that you're working with them, and find out what you want to do.
I know you were there when the Undertaker was there, because you had a match with the Undertaker, which we were talking about. Would you say that this was during the time that he was actually the guy in the locker room, that everyone knew that he was that locker room leader?
He wasn't the guy then. He was just coming into the business. That's this transition from Mark Calloway to the Undertaker. He was just starting in with the Undertaker gimmick, with the black and purple suit, and he was just starting into it. Just got out of that heel phase. Remember when he was going babyface?
Yep. Now you mentioned you go there, you go to the sheet, see who you're wrestling. And I know you mentioned Lex Lugar, but was there anybody that you see that you would be wrestling that you just didn't want to wrestle because they had a certain reputation? And
Lex.
And if so, was it Lex?
It was Lex.
Yep. So did you wrestle?
Rumored. It was rumored. All the stuff was Lex was rumored. First of all, he came from the Canadian Football League. He was a big boy. And there was guys that got hurt from Lex because Lex was Lex. I was worried. He was the only guy that I ever worried about wrestling. Everybody that I was ever in there with, that was the only guy that I ever worried about wrestling. I didn't even want to wrestle him. And I was like, what am I going to do? Well, I'm getting paid to do this. And if I don't wrestle Lex, I'm never going to wrestle here again. So guess what? I wrestled Lex. And it was great.
What was Lex? What was his in the locker room? Did the boys get along with him, or was he even in the locker room with you guys because he was supposedly quote unquote this big star? Even Lex admitted that back then he was basically an asshole. So did you have any run-ins with him, even friendly, in the locker room with him in WWE?
When he found out he was wrestling me, so the match that we had was scheduled for third hour. He was not a happy camper about it. Everybody else that he was riding with and his little clique of guys that he hung out with, like I said, I didn't interact with those guys a whole lot. I had a job to do, and that was it. I didn't go, hey, can I take my picture with you? I never did that. My job was to go in, introduce myself. This is who I am. So long I've been in the business, this, and that. That was it. Let them, they were the guys. Let them call the match. That's what it was showcasing them. You know what I'm saying? My
Yep.
interaction with Tim when I first met him, he was not a happy camper that we were third hour. He was pissed. And I was like, what do you want to do? And he says, get back with me later. We'll figure it out. Do you want me to get into the story?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why you're here.
So, he says, let me figure it out. I'll get back to you. So I'm like, all right. I go off and do my stuff. And about an hour later, Lex's mirror's backstage and he's over by it and he's talking with some people and stuff like that. And I just walked by and I had long mullet back in the day, old deal. I got in his mirror and checked my look and he's like, kid, come here. I got it. I'm like, yes, sir. He goes, so this is what's going to happen. And if you've seen the match, you've seen what happened. But I mean, I'll tell you, he said, I'm going to take my time going to the ring, doing my deal. He says, we're not even going to have a match. He said, the bell's not even going to ring. He said, we're going to go out there and do this, and that. He says, I'm going to flex in the mirror. When I turn to flex to the crowd, I want you to walk up to that mirror, check your look, watch out for the bionic elbow. Laid me out with the elbow before the match ever started, kicked me out of the ring.
Oh. So did he have to go over with creative what he wanted to do with you in that ring, or that was just based on what he wanted to do?
At that time, those guys were their own creative. There wasn't creative then. They were doing TV tapings. They gave them ideas of stuff that they wanted. They had places that they want to go. So creative probably worked. Lex was going to work Yokozuna or whatever the deal is. They gave him that. I was just a squash match for him. That's everything we did in WWF was squash matches. There wasn't any creative them. Those guys had their own ideas. They got away with doing whatever they wanted to do. Let's just get out there and do it. And I was concerned. I'm like, we're not going to get in trouble. He goes, what are they going to do? Fire me? No, we're not getting in trouble at all. I'm the one that's calling us. So here we go.
So we know that was probably one of your most famous, as they say, matches in WWE. But you also wrestled the Undertaker. Tell me about that, wrestling against him. What was the conversation like before you got into the ring? Was there any conversation, or was it just being called in the ring as you guys went along?
I had talked to him before. I mean, nicest guy you'd ever meet in your life. Very gentle-mannered guy. Great. I have nothing bad to say about Mark at all. Great guy. He was sitting on a table, basically, the buffet tables. You've seen him. He was sitting against that. And he's like, hey, so we're going to put you in this body bag after this is over. You're good with that? I'm like, yeah. He goes, so I'm going to carry you back. Just stay still once you're in that bag. Do not move. No matter what you hear or anything, do not move. Just stay still. And I'm like, yes, sir. And he says, I'm going to pull you out. I'm going to carry you to the back. I'm going to stand you up and I'm going to hold you and just stay still until it's unzipped. Close your eyes. And when it's unzipped, I'll tell you to open your eyes and everything will be fine. I'm like, okay, great. No problem. I get out to the ring. He comes out to the ring, gets in the ring. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing here? Because I literally come to his chest. I mean, my head is at his chest. And I'm like, what am I doing? Best worker of my life. My best guy ever was him. It was great. The whole match was great.
Yeah, I heard that as big as he is, he's only stiff if he has to be. Now, it's also well known that back then he started ribbing the guys that were quote unquote enhancement talents and stuff like that. You talked about him putting you in the bag. He talked about how he started to bring you guys to the back, stand you up, and then he would just walk away without pulling you guys out. Did he do that to you?
No, sir. Complete respect. But nice. Then again, I worked in this business for a long time.
Right.
I wasn't a backyarder. You know what I'm saying? I the only person I ever got hurt was with Bam Bam. And it wasn't even Bam Bam's fault. It's by my own fault. I fractured 3 ribs. And it was by my own fault. And the next night I had to wrestle Bob Backlund, so go figure.
So you wrestled with WWE. You talk about Lex. You talk about Undertaker. Who else did you have the pleasure of being in the ring with?
The Beverly Brothers. Brutus cut my hair on national TV. I look like Eddie Munster for the next 6 months. Like, hey, you want to get your hair cut? And I'm like, sure, yeah, no problem. Another friend of mine had worked with him in another show, and he got his hair cut, no big deal. And he was just cutting our mullets. Not a big deal. It'll grow back. Not me. He grabs me by the front of my hair and scalps me. I look like Eddie Munster for the next 6 months. I take all this hair that was long right here and had to get the, it's basically the haircut I got now and look like Eddie Munster. Bad news.
Yeah, you mentioned the Beverly Brothers. They're known for their finisher that has been described by many as the most brutal finisher in professional wrestler because they really hurt people with their finisher. Was this something that you were concerned about?
I took it. I didn't have a problem with it, but watching it back on tape, and if you even listen to the commentary, it was pretty close. I mean, luckily for me, I knew what I was doing because I'm always out there to protect myself anyhow at all costs. So if I wouldn't have known what I was doing, I'd have broke my neck for sure.
Yeah. So you
wrestled them with Bob Bradley, and I took the finish.
I did. You go through WWF and then you end up leaving. You go back to the indie scene. Now I know on the indie scene, more times than not, you were used as one of the top guys. You were in a lot of the main events. You carried the title. Do you have any specific matches that you consider your best match? And if so, with who and why do you consider that, your best match?
I got a couple. I worked across the border for quite a bit of time. I worked down there as El War Scorpio. Besides being the Thrillseeker, I worked there. So I got to sometimes work, twice in a night, being somebody different. El War Scorpio, I had a tag team partner for a while, lost the tag team partner. So, I went heel for a long time. One of my best matches there is I had a mask versus mask match. And in the Lucha community, mask is everything. It's your whole story. It's your bloodline. It's your backstory. I lost my mask. It was pretty funny. I lost the match, had to take the mask off, and I lost my mind in the middle of the ring. I beat up the referee. I beat up the guy that just beat me, and I beat up like 3 or 4 other people that came out. Then I go out to the audience and I take a chair and start hitting myself in the head. They start calling me Loco Gringo. So, yeah, it was a pretty crazy night. They were throwing money and pesos at me and all kinds of stuff like that. And one of the ring crew picked it up, and back in some of the Mexican rings and stuff like that, they were boxing rings. There was no give to them at all. They're I-beams down the middle of them. They're really, really stiff rings. But underneath the ring, there's the spit buckets and stuff. They have water, where they can wash off the sponge so they can sponge it down.
Yep.
So one of the ring crew went around and started picking up all the pesos and stuff and brought them to the back to give them to me. I gave them.
Well, that's awesome.
I gave them.
That's awesome.
I'm not taking home a bucket full of pesos on here. It ain't gonna happen, man. I just gave them to him. I got paid to go out there and do the job that I did and did it, and I gave it to him, and it was quite a bit of money. I don't know how much it was. Never did find out, but it was a lot. And he brought his family the next night to the next show, and they were all thanking me, and so very, very happy. I basically paid their rent, I guess, for the next 2 months. I don't know. I mean,
right.
So Mexico City, they gave him all this money.
Now, you wrestled during a time that it was dangerous to be a baby face. The fans back then were known to throw acid, batteries, urine, even trash your vehicle. Did you ever have to deal with any crazy fan?
No, actually, no. I was pretty lucky as a baby face. I was loved as a heel. They didn't like me, none at all. It's sort of weird. Arizona, and then again, territories were a lot different then. Going in Arizona, even going through Kansas and stuff like that. As a babyface, people actually liked me. I didn't have very many problems with it. I wrestled in San Luis, Mexico. A guy named Baby Love, their number one good guy, and I was a heel as the Thrillseeker. I beat the crap out of him, and it was sort of like an Undertaker deal with me. He came to my chest. He was just a little guy, and I took advantage of it, to say the least. And I beat him up and threw him all over the place. And there was some German guys. They called themselves the Schultzes, and they had a manager that sort of looked like Hitler. And they come running to the ring. Well, they hit the ring, and I scooted. I get out the ring. I go and I take a seat in the front row and start watching. And I get up and I'm like, yeah, I'm not helping. there's a guy selling beer at, they walk around in Mexico selling beers out of there. They got these little coolers strapped to their chest, and I just grab a beer and I start downing it, and I sit down again, and I'm just watching. I'm just like, whatever. Well, people are like yelling at me, go help him, go help him, go help him. I get almost all the way back to the locker room. I finished slamming that beer, and all I did was ran to the ring. I baseball slid into the ring. The Schultzes all left. I picked the guy up, dusted him off, and raised his hand, and I'm a hero. It was crazy. It was crazy.
Now, during your career on the indie scene, and forgive me, I cannot remember this gentleman's name, but you two were known for having feuds on a consistent basis. Can you remind me who that was again, and tell me about the feud and what was it about this guy that they put you guys together more times than not to have these long feuds?
Ron Matthews, the Black Mamba.
Yes, the Black Mamba.
Used to carry this snake around that was 18 foot long with him. We had great matches, and it just worked. It worked really, really well. I was the good guy. He was the bad guy. He had his valet. She used to slap the piss out of me. She never held back. She slapped the piss out of me on more than one occasion. We had great matches. I mean, you name it, we did it. We went all over doing that. All through Arizona. We took some of that into California with us. We got booked with different promoters in California. We took that same thing with us just because we worked each other so much. It worked, and it worked well. And he unfortunately, I mean, in Arizona, I'm the good guy, white guy that people are going to naturally go to. And he was just that hood guy that nobody liked because he was arrogant, and he was just a straight up, lack of a better term. I mean, I don't know what I can say here on YouTube, but nobody liked him. It just straight out, nobody liked him. He just rubbed everybody the wrong way, purposely, of course, because behind the scenes, he's the nicest guy in the world. But we carried it around. We had some great matches. Got the fans mad at me with him too. We were having a battle royal, and it was him and I in the middle of the ring at the end of it. And I sort of like, hey, stop. Let's think about this a minute. We've been fighting each other for the last 2 years. What happens if we team up? There's nobody's going to beat us.
Right.
And he was like, so, to show my dedication to him, I jumped over the top rope. People were so mad. They were not happy. And we became tag team champions, USA tag team champions.
So did you turn heel then?
Oh, yeah, I was heel for a little while. And, it lasted about 6 months. And then we went back to fighting again. Butts in seats. People love to watch us beat the crap out of each other, and we did it well.
Right. I know at one point you had a singles title. I think it was the championship for that promotion. What promotion was that you were working for?
I've had several singles for it.
Did you? Okay.
I've had several titles, more than I can actually count. The one in the picture is what you're talking about. That's for AIWA. That was out of Hollywood, California, Ed Ahern's Productions. Yeah, out of Hollywood, California. That was their junior heavyweight champion there. The belt that you just seen is United States champion for another promotion that was run by Tim Hicks, or otherwise known as Tom Parks, Dr. Tom Parks. He ran wrestling out of Southwest Arizona. And he passed away, but before he did, he'd shut down his organization. I was the last champion I was the first and last champion that he had with the belt. I won the championship. I relinquished it, left the area, and he gave it to somebody else. But as far as he was concerned, I was the first champion, and I never lost the belt to anybody because I relinquished it. I'd left the area, and I just didn't feel right about taking his belt and going, because I'd moved to Las Vegas and had no plans on actually coming back to Arizona. As far as it went, I was I was on my way out of wrestling at that time. I was done for personal reasons. And he called me up one day and said, "Hey man, I've dissolved this organization. Would you like to have this belt? You were my first champion, and you never ever lost that belt. So I'd like to gift it to you." And I was like, absolutely. So, and nice. As you know, it's old school and it's heavy. It is.
It's a nice belt. Yeah, I've got to see it. But I want to ask you a question. I know you and I talked about it. We were hanging out in St. Louis, but I want to bring it up again. It involves a belt and the company telling you that you have to put someone else over and drop the title to them. There have been talents like Superstar Billy Graham, Bret Hart, and a few other guys that had said that losing the belt was something very personal to them because they felt like if you had that belt, that's the company saying you are the best guy that we have. You are the guy that can put ass in seats. But when they take it off of you, it could kind of mean that they lost faith in you. We see what happened to Billy's Superstar Billy Graham. He kind of went to a deep depression, never recovered from that. Did you have that same mindset that if the booker was like, you're dropping the belt tonight, did you feel like the company was saying, we don't have stock in you anymore?
No, I never had that feeling at all. I understood the business and that if you're the same guy holding that belt for a year, it's ridiculous. I mean, if you're holding it for a week, that's really stupid. If you're holding it for 3 or 4 months, 5 months, somebody else has got to win it because I got to have something else to chase again. And I get it. And I was moving around and I had so much stuff going on. There wasn't weekend one that I wasn't busy doing something. I was always, every weekend, I was out going someplace doing something all the time. I was in Mexico. I was in California. I was in Arizona. I was going down to Texas doing some stuff. I mean, I was just all over the place doing stuff at that time. So the belt was just something extra that I had to carry with me, that I had to make sure that I held on to and, take care of this property. Made it interesting going through airports when you're just trying to carry a duffel bag because you don't want to, wait for checked luggage or do any of that because you fly when you're flying, you do as cheap as possible. But, extra 5 to 10 pounds you have to carry around after a while. It sort of gets annoying and stuff, but I never had a problem dropping the belt to anybody. But I'd also, by that time in my career, when I was winning belts, I'd worked as a booker before and learned a lesson early on that you're not a superstar. You're not the whole show. You can't just put yourself over all the time because it's got to make sense. Everything that you do in wrestling has to make sense. If it doesn't make sense, then why are you doing it?
Right. So I bet you were in the business for quite a while. I have to imagine that you have some really good stories that you could share. Would you share a couple of those stories with us?
Well, let's see. Some interesting ones from Mexico. You go to Mexico and some of that stuff is sponsored. And to wrestle in Mexico at that time, it was sort of like being licensed in the States. You had to know certain people and you had to pay a fee per se, let's say, to wrestle there to make sure that you're safely got through border crossings and got through different checkpoints to make sure that you as an American was taken care of and that you were going to come back home okay. So we go out and wrestle, and afterwards, one of the sponsors owned a nightclub, so we end up going to this nightclub, and the whole area where all the wrestlers are at, it's all blocked off and guarded with guards with M16s. I mean, literally military police. When you showed up at that town, you got introduced to the chief of police there and his whole crew, so they knew who you were. So if you had any issues, you didn't go to jail. You got escorted back to your hotel. So it was sort of a nice thing. But
right.
Anyhow, going to this club afterwards, went out to this nightclub, and it was sort of funny because Mexico, I was like, they're behind the times because we're doing this in like the late 80s, and they're playing like early 80s music in it. You got like Madonna and stuff like that. It's pretty sort of like stepping back in time, but it was just really weird. And there's this girl that I was interested in at that time dancing on the dance floor. And I'm like, yeah, her. I want to dance with her. So I go and tell one of the guys that's with the M16s, guarding. He hands his gun to the other guy, goes out onto the dance floor, tells this girl, hey, come here. This guy wants to see us. So we go sit down, and her boyfriend, whoever he was, I'm assuming his boyfriend was mad. He couldn't come in with her. I mean, literally, you get up, you have to go to the bathroom to hit the head. They go clear the bathroom for you. You go in, use the head. There's nobody coming in to get your back, man. I mean, you're completely covered because you're going in, you're in a completely different country and you're a white boy. I mean, I was as white as they were, you're covered. It was great. I had a mix up with a promoter that I told him I needed 2 escorts to escort me to the ring, because I had this cowhide jacket that I used to wear and have them print my hair. Sort of did that Gorgeous George deal a little bit, primping my hair, brushing my hair, making sure it's all pretty, taking my coat off of me. Told him that, this is what I need for pay. I need my travel taken care of, and I need these 2 escorts. So all good. Get done with the match, get paid. Hey, we're all going out to the bar. Cool, no problem. We all go out to the bar. And I was like, yeah, I need to get to my room, man. I'm done. I need to go to my room, because I hadn't even been to the hotel room yet. I don't know where that's. I was like, well, the girls know where it's at. They'll take you. Yeah, well, he had in mind, took the word escort as legitimate escort. I mean, these are beautiful, beautiful girls. But yeah, right. It was pretty interesting. They let me in the room. I just threw my bag in. I went and hit the head. I'd been drinking all night, and get back, and I got 2 girls that are unclothed on the bed. We're going to leave it right there. Before I was married, by the way, I have to put that out there. Definitely before I was married. Definitely had some wild times.
Did you have to deal a lot, especially when you're in WWE, with a lot of guys trying to rib you?
No. Never. Like I said, kept to myself, did my job, got in there, did what I needed to do, and left. I was allowed to leave when we were done. There was no sitting around hanging out. We got paid, did our jobs, and left. If you got invited to go hang out, you went and hung out. You just didn't invite yourself. There's a lot of times I just went back to my room and went to bed.
Yeah. You mentioned about being in another country, being a white boy in another country. Right now, there's a guy by the name of Chad Gable, and he started wearing a mask and going by El Grande Americano. And they've gotten a lot of slack from a lot of the Mexican wrestlers and fans. Now, you wrestled in Mexico. You had a few mask matches. Again, we know how they feel about the mask. We know that you told us that some of them loved you. They were throwing pesos at you. Did you have to deal with any heat for wearing a mask as a white boy?
No, because it worked with my gimmick, and it was completely different time than what it is now.
Yeah.
Right now, that mask is everything in the world. I mean, it was then too, but I was a heel also. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't a baby face trying to pull out. And Gable's a heel too by no means. But yeah, it's a weird angle, and I get it, but it's still it's a weird angle. It keeps you interested, and you keep tuning in to see if he's going to wrestle as Chad Gable this week, or is he going to wrestle as a Americano? And what's going to happen when Chad Gable has to meet Americano?
Right. So you kind of went full circle in your career, because when you decided you're going to step out of the ring for good, you ended up training a couple of people. What made you decide that this is what you wanted to do? You wanted to train some guys for the next generation of wrestlers.
So wrestling is like a drug. You can try to leave, but you never leave. It's always there. I mean, I'd stopped watching wrestling for a long, long time. I didn't like the product. I didn't like where it was going, how it was going. I didn't believe in it. It wasn't what I was taught. It's a completely different ball game. Then I had the opportunity to start training guys old school, the way that I was trained, without, shooting on them or hurting them, to make sure that they were allowed to be in this business, but got to teach them the fundamentals of old school, how we actually did it and stuff like that. And it lit a fire back underneath me. I trained quite a few guys that went through. There's a couple guys that are actually working right now. Joe Helms is one of them. Helped train him. He actually helped me train a lot of guys too, because at this age, I just don't take bumps anymore. My body, it's not gonna work. It just isn't. It's bad enough. I get out of bed every morning. I still feel that wrestling career. I'm lucky that I can still walk. I did a lot of stupid stuff back in the day, and hindsight being 2020, probably shouldn't, but I'm one of the lucky ones. I can still walk. I know a lot of guys that got crippled up as far as it goes, and guys that got crippled and injured in the ring because they just did stuff the wrong way, or somebody had an accident. I'm lucky. So I try to train the guys safely in doing this stuff. I worked with this company, ICWF, for a while and started with them, and that company sort of fell apart. It was made to self-destruct. Let's put it that way. I did the training and that was it. I tried to stay out of the politics of what they were doing and presented myself and Big Joe Helms to Jason Jones, who runs Mid-States Wrestling, and sort of bridge that gap. I was lucky enough to do that because I asked permission instead of forgiveness, because we were running in Republic, to make sure that we could do that because it's area. It's just the right thing to do, and got that permission to do that. There was some other problems with the people that running in the promotion and the way that it worked. Like I said, it imploded upon itself, unfortunately. So left them and was going down every week with Joe, going down to Arkansas, training down in Arkansas, training stuff with him, and started to work with some of the other talent. And I've been with Mid-States Wrestling for quite a while now. I'm their general manager.
Oh, nice.
I'm the law.
Yeah. Now, aren't you doing other things now that you're not in wrestling, that you're involved with, as far as helping others in nonprofits and stuff like that? I thought I read that about you.
Oh, we've done some nonprofit work and for stuff like that, and done some stuff for charities as far as it goes. Not as much as I'd like to, but it's a busy schedule, and especially when you're involving wrestling and the cost that goes into doing wrestling and doing stuff like that. A great one out there right now is Tim Rockwell, Wrestling for a Cause. He does a lot of charity work and gives back. I don't know the percentage numbers of his shows. I mean, I know Tim Rockwell personally. He's a great, great guy. He does a lot of stuff for kids that have cancer. He does some benefit shows. He does a lot of stuff with that right now. And he's out of Oklahoma doing that stuff, which is, it's a little far for me to go, but I just can't get to his shows. I have a real shoot job that I have to be at. It doesn't allow me to get that way. So I travel down to Harrison, Arkansas when we have shows there. I do shows in Springfield. I come up and do the stuff in St. Louis for like Herb Simmons when he does the SICW and stuff like that. But yeah.
Yeah. And one last question. You and I both same generation, pretty close in age. What do you think about how certain promotions are starting to open up that curtain pretty wide for fans to actually see, the things that are actually going on behind those curtains? Do you feel like, well, it's kind of time for that to happen? Or being old school like I am, is it one of those things that you really wish that they wouldn't do it, and they're in a way kind of destroying the mystique within professional wrestling?
I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I'm old school all the way. Eddie Mansfield came out. I absolutely hated what he did when he did it. I hated it. Nothing I could do about it. I didn't know Eddie. I know Eddie now. Eddie and I are friends on Facebook. I understand what he did and when he did it. But at the point that Vince McMahon said, this is sports entertainment, Vince is the one that blew it all open. So now there's no hiding it. But at the end of the day, what happens behind the curtain really needs to stay behind the curtain. It still needs to have that mystery out there. It still needs to have the good guy versus the bad guy. The good guy is you. The bad guy is your boss. The good guy's doing everything to your boss that you want to do that you can't do, or you're going to end up in jail. And the boss is the bad guy because he's doing bad things to you all the time. Sort of the story of wrestling, how it's worked since, the early days of wrestling. Gorgeous George, Lou Thez, it's just sort of the way it worked. I don't like it opening it up. I'm not a fan of AEW by any means. It's just Joe. And we've talked about this before. I just can't stand that show. They kill finishers, which sort of kills it for me. I mean, you're doing 3 or 4 finishers in a row and the guy's standing up like nothing happened. What are you doing? Why are we doing this? It again, it has to make sense, and it doesn't make sense to me.
Right. Yeah, I get it. WWE's also they're coming up with a new show on Netflix where they show exactly how creative works and everything that's happening. And my question has always been, why? Why do you guys want to do this? You are ruining professional wrestler. As a wrestling fan, I don't want to see it. As you and I have talked about, I want to be able to very easily be able to suspend my disbelief when watching professional wrestling. And it seems like these larger companies are just trying everything they can to destroy that for fans. And it's all about money, unfortunately. Um,
Multi-billion, I said $1 billion a year industry.
Yep.
So they're going to give people as much access as they can. I mean, ticket seats for WrestleMania for front row were how much? I mean,
yeah. Well, SummerSlam, there's the front row seats, 40,000.
Why? So I can sit at home, even if I have to pay for the pay-per-view, I can sit at home and watch it for $40 or $50. Why would I spend that? And I'm going to get a better view. I mean, I understand going to matches, but at the end of the day, why? Why spend that much money to go to a WWE show or an AEW show? Go see your independent wrestling. These are the guys that are up and coming. This is where wrestling started. This is where wrestling begins. Some of these guys are great, and there is a lot of really, really good talent out there right now. I mean, I know of the talent that's in my general area. I don't scan and watch a lot of stuff because I get upset with a lot of stuff that I see. I call it the de-evolution of wrestling. Mm-hmm. One guy's been trained by this guy who was never completely trained by that guy, and this guy thinks he knows everything, so he trains this guy, and it just starts, the evolution of wrestling goes backwards. You shouldn't be allowed to be in the ring unless you're trained. When I was in the wrestling business, if you didn't have trunks, you didn't have boots, you didn't get in the ring. We got guys wrestling out there in gym shorts and tennis shoes. Why? Put some pride in yourself. And I tell that to every independent out there. Invest in yourself. Make yourself look like a pro wrestler. You don't want to look like the guy that you see at the mall. Why are you looking like that? Make yourself look like a pro wrestler. Present yourself as a pro wrestler and act like it. Put yourself on that pedestal. I mean, there's guys out there doing it. Colton Theron Vaughn, he's great. Austin Mulitalo. Austin reminds me of me when I was young. That kid is going everywhere. He's on fire right now. Brandon Beretta, he's great. Sean Vincent, your favorite wrestler. I know. You love your favorite wrestler from SICW. You know, there's guys like that. I mean, the old school talent like Attila Khan and Mr. Saturday Night, you know, Michael Berry, Jason Jones. It's just, we need more of that. We need to go back to that old Memphis style wrestling where wrestling was wrestling. You know, the theatrics of it all, the flippy flips, I'm sort of over it, you know?
Right. Yeah, I agree, man. Terry, thank you so much for giving up your time. I know you are an extremely busy guy. Is there anything coming up, any dates that you would like anyone to know about that you may be involved with?
Saturday the 14th, we're going to be in Harrison, Arkansas. And Saturday the 21st of June, we will be back in Springfield, Missouri. And I need to give a shout out on to two major sponsors that we have. KC Insurance, which I think you got an interview coming up with the owners of that company. They 100% truly back independent pro wrestling as far as it goes, and Premier Pond in Springfield, Missouri. They got two stores. I definitely got to give a shout out to those guys too. They go out of their way. Both of those companies go out of their way to help us. And we've got other companies that have been along the way that they do support us and stuff, but that's our two biggest supporters that we have in this area, you know, doing stuff with Mid-States Wrestling right now. They're great supporters of ours and appreciate everything that they do for us.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you so much, man. We need to plan something with our wives. Either we come that way or you guys come our way. Give your lovely wife, tell her I said hello from Krista and I. And again, I appreciate you coming on. Don't be a stranger. You have my number, my friend. Guys, we will be back to do a review of SmackDown on Saturday at 6 p.m. Don't miss that. And again, I have some incredible interviews coming up next week. If you go to my Facebook page, KG Landry, you will find all the people I have coming in the next few weeks. Until then, guys, you all have a great weekend. Terry, again, thank you again so much for giving up your very busy time to do this with me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Have a great night.
You too.